Jimmy Pattison didn't inherit money, he made it. The billionaire from BC rose from humble beginnings, selling garden seeds door to door, and at age 91 remains one of the world's most successful entrepreneurs.
I had the best parents you could ever get, but the only thing we didn't have was money. But that didn't affect anything.
His work ethic is notorious. He's delivered newspapers, worked on trains, washed cars, and always dreamed big. The first business he bought was a car dealership in Vancouver, and he's never let his foot off the gas. Charge! The Jim Pattison Group is the second largest privately held company in Canada, and it's into everything. Cars, signs, agricultural equipment, grocery stores, wine stores, radio stations, forest products, fishing, real estate, theme parks, and even the Guinness Book of World Records operation. About 48,000 employees, more than $10 billion in annual sales.
I have fun going to work every day. Everybody's different. I prefer going to work. I like what I do, and so I just keep doing it.
He shares his wealth, has given millions to BC hospitals, including $75 million to build a new hospital in Vancouver, the largest donation from a private citizen to a single medical facility in Canadian history.
I got to get up and pay for all this stuff now. Now I do have to go to work.
Mr. Pattison, thank you so much for talking to us. Tell me how you're coping in this pandemic. What's your greatest worry?
I don't have a worry. Things eventually will come out fine over time. This is a big hit, but we've had hits before, but nothing like this. But we'll come out of it, but it will take time.
You've got how many divisions? 25, I think, if I got that right?
Yeah, we have 24, 25 different divisions.
Yeah, a very broad range of companies and interests. You sound pretty optimistic about the future of all of them, would you say?
Oh, no, we got trouble. We have some that are doing very well. We've got some that are doing very bad. But over time, things will get back to, I think, a new normal.
Yeah.
And because certainly a lot of things that we're doing today, some of this is going to stick, and that we do. And but long term, we'll be fine.
Long term meaning 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
Well, my guess, uneducated guess, is probably take 2 years before we get back to some kind of normal, what we think is normal, what will be different by something.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about your own companies now, or you mean the economy
I'm talking
generally?
about my opinion,
yeah.
My uneducated opinion of the world.
Well, you know, you have a lot of expertise, a lot of experience, decades, of course, of running successful companies. Have you ever seen a storm like this?
Never, ever seen anything like it, nor has anybody else.
You know, there are some people who say, like Bill Gates, for example, who sort of warned about something like this happening. Did you see it coming? Were you able to put anything in place in your companies to sort of weather the storm?
No, absolutely none.
Blindsided like everybody else.
Well, we certainly never imagined anything as deep as this. In the change of the way we get up in the morning and think about things.
Yeah, yeah. And economies around the world effectively shut down.
They certainly had a huge, huge hit. No question about it.
Yeah. You know, the United States is particularly hard hit. I think the numbers yesterday were 36 million unemployed, which is almost the population of Canada.
Yeah.
And it's the worst unemployment numbers since the Depression.
Yeah.
What's your concern about the global economy and where it might be headed? Do you think it could be headed towards depression?
Well, certainly when it gets back to whatever is the new normal, which will take some time, there's a lot of smart people out there, and a lot of people that will be leaders to take us to the new next step that we have here, and long term, I'm optimistic.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. What has been the impact on how you do business?
Well, everything's different. The food business is different than the automobile business or your business, the broadcasting. And but with technology and the knowledge that we have today, there will be a lot of new things coming up.
You have, I think, 48,000 employees, roughly.
Yes, something like that.
Are they all okay?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of anything that was seriously. We have people that have got the virus in various parts of some of our people, not in Vancouver particularly, but in our whole system, and it's all being dealt with. Our people are prepared for it in different divisions, but it's not out of control or anything like that. But we do.
You have a lot of people who work in the food industry and grocery stores and food distribution who are now essential workers.
We have, and I've only heard of one person that we've had a problem like that.
Do you think it's given us a new appreciation for all those people, though, who do that kind of work?
Absolutely. The contribution that these caregivers have contributed to a situation like we're in is really special, and they deserve so much appreciation and thanks from the rest of us that aren't in that business.
And I guess people who work in grocery stores too, right?
Well, the grocery store people, anybody dealing with people,
Yeah.
but our people have put a lot of effort into making sure that to the best of our ability that we follow all the rules and regulations and washing your hands and the distance that we're talking about. And but you can get it from your neighbor or walking the dog with somebody if you're close enough.
Is Canada better positioned, do you think, than some other countries to come through this?
I don't know about Canada, because I think there's so much difference between, let's say, Vancouver Island and Montreal, that I think there's every location is not necessarily country, but geography and the attitude of the people are very different in one country. And so I think you have to take it sort of region by region to the best you can. Some people really play ball and do the right thing right away and are disciplined. Other people are much less easygoing, more easygoing and less disciplined.
Yeah. And what about economically, in terms of sort of the global economy? Is Canada in a good position, do you think, relative to other countries?
Well, boy, we're putting a lot of debt on the country, as is certainly people like the Americans. And this will be, I can't answer your question. I'm not smart enough to know just where all this debt finally ends up. Long term will be fine, but just where the hits are, I'm not sure.
You know, there's been a lot of lifelines being given by the federal government to businesses and to individuals.
Right.
That's what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that has been necessary? Or
I do think it, generally speaking, they've done what they think is best long term, because you got to deal with the people that are being affected, but the debt that they're putting on, somewhere there's a price to pay for all of that too.
Yeah.
But right now, the people in authority are making the best decision that they can with the best advice they got, and we got to support that.
Well, yeah, the calculation is to shut down big parts of the economy in order to save lives.
Right, absolutely.
And do you think it's clear what the choice is there?
Well, absolutely. And the number one thing you got to protect is people's lives. And there's if you open up too fast, it's going to cause more deaths. And so you have to give, in my opinion, you have to give the priority to making sure people stay alive. Yeah. I think that's number one. And then you do the best you can. By the same token, people lose their jobs by the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and we need to get back as fast as we can. But in my opinion, not at the risk of a bunch more deaths.
Are you following the public health briefings?
I do. Well, I follow it on the news.
Yeah, yeah.
Listening to people like you.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. Who do you think is? What do you think of the leadership, of the role of science and the public health officers as we go through this?
Well, I think that they're terrific. I think they're hugely dedicated people and very conscientious and very helpful and useful at this time.
There are some business leaders who think they have some expertise in that area. I'm talking about Elon Musk in particular. I don't know if you've heard what he'd said, but that the coronavirus is a dumb panic, that, you know, we should get on with opening up businesses. Do you think there's a business should be business and public health should be public health, and you shouldn't pretend to be an expert in either field?
As I said, if it was up to me, I would focus to the best of my ability to protect the people and their health and reduce the risk of deaths, whatever that takes. Yeah. And then on the other side, you got all these people that are out of work, and so we have to do that. The leaders have a difficult job today.
You know, you have so many different divisions in your company. Has that been part of the secret to resilience? Is diversity your strength when you hit a crisis like this?
It is today.
Yeah.
We are diversified, and it's been very useful to be diversified in a situation like this for us. Mm-hmm. We have businesses doing very, very well, and we have others that are doing very, very bad.
Have you had to lay off many people?
We have had to lay off people. Yes.
And how much does that pain you? That's not
well,
what
it depends. It is sometimes some of our people are making more money from what they're getting from the government than we were paying them. So they're not hurting those people.
Yeah. And how likely are you to come back to the same strength, do you think, that you were going into this?
Over time.
Yeah. You're so optimistic.
But we'll be doing things differently than we have.
So what do you mean by that? How do you see that playing out? How you will do things differently?
Well, it depends on the industry. I mean, and the location. Certainly, if you're in Quebec, it's different than if you're in Saskatchewan. And it depends what industry. If you're in the food business, it's very different than if you're in the lumber business.
Yeah, so take maybe the food business. How do you think we'll continue to operate in grocery stores the way we are now? Or
we will. It'll change. The grocery stores are different today than they were 25 years ago. So there's always change.
Yeah, yeah.
This is going to speed up some of it.
I guess that's a lesson you learn after years in business, that change is good, right? You don't have to be afraid of it.
Change is inevitable. And the key is to sometimes change, you have to, it's disappointing and you have to make some changes. But anyway, change is with us ever since time began.
What's your advice on how to make a business more resilient in the event there was another pandemic?
Well, I think that George W. Bush, the son, when he was president, he said the important thing is to get ready for these kinds of events, because if you don't get ready, it's too late when it happens. And he was absolutely right. And when I remembered, in fact, I got a video on it, that where he actually spoke and said, it's too late if you don't prepare ahead of time for these kinds of crises that come along.
Hard to prepare for something like this, right? I mean, the scale of this is kind of...
But people in the health business, they understand all these things certainly better than people like me, and they have played a huge role in what's happening today on a very positive basis, as you know.
You know, there's some people who think, including public health officers, that the United States is our biggest risk right now, our proximity to the U.S. Do you have views on when you think the Canada-US border should open?
No, I don't. The experts will have they'll have the information. It's certainly, from a business point of view, the quicker the better, but it may not be the best for the population, and it depends on the part of the country, again, as I said. The experts will have to decide that.
Does having that border shut to everything except non-essential business affect your business?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
Everything affects our business. But, as it relates to the policies they're having. We have, as you said, we got 48,000 employees, and we're in different businesses at different locations. We have people in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, and we got people in Victoria and everywhere in between, and the United States. And we have them in London, England. And we have people in our company that work in China and Japan. So it's every situation is a bit different.
You have always remained a privately owned company. Has that been better?
No, I have been in the public. We still are. We're involved with a couple public companies.
Oh, okay, okay.
But we haven't always been. But we've always been private at some point, and it just gives us a little bit more freedom to do things.
Well, that's what I wondered about. So does that make you more resilient now? Does it give you the ability to look longer term, or?
I think, well, certainly if you're private, you can move very quickly, and we don't have a lot of the things that go with being a public company, and it's just more difficult and more expensive in a public company. But in our case, we just have a conglomeration of smaller companies.
You know, if you could talk to a young version of you, just getting started in business now, what bit of advice would you offer?
Number one, be totally honest, tell the truth, work hard, and that's a good start.
And that's what you did, right?
Well, we've always been very honest in every respect that we know how. Made a lot of mistakes, but never one of being dishonest. And hard work certainly is important. And I found the harder you work, the luckier you get.
You know, a lot of people who aren't in business might look to you and say, you're so successful that you must not have made many mistakes.
Oh, I don't know anybody that's made as many mistakes as I have. But the key is to try to fix it and move on.
Learn from them.
Hopefully. I've made the same mistake more than once. And I go back, I've already done this. Why am I doing it again?
Let me ask you about your own health. I mean, you're in the category of most risk right now for COVID-19.
I am.
Does it worry you?
No.
No?
But I'm following the rules the best I can.
Mm-hmm. Do you know people who have become sick? Anyone in your family or?
Nobody in my family, and I can't say I do know anybody that's contracted the virus.
Mm. When you look at other places like Italy or New York City.
Or Montreal.
Or Montreal.
No, it's really...
Do you feel fortunate that we're in BC?
Well, I think that John Horgan and the government, BC government, have done a very good job.
Mm-hmm. And that took the right public health decisions at the right time?
Well, I think if you just look at the numbers,
yeah.
British Columbia is done very well.
What do you think the biggest lesson business will learn from this?
That's a good question. I think it depends on what kind of business you're in, but I think it's important to be more conservative than more aggressive.
In the approaches you take
to the of the risks. Probably I'm using the wrong words here, but I think that when something like this that happens, that nobody's ever seen anything like it before, that when people start to talk about that are experts, it pays probably people like me or anybody else to pay a lot more attention to the experts, or people that understand these kinds of things better than normally you would.
Well, who did you turn to when you started to see what was happening in, well, first China and then Italy and Iran and then New York? Who did you look to for leadership? Who did you look to for expertise on how to make decisions about your business?
Well, we just listen to turn on the television to your station and see what the health officer has to say for my area.
Yeah.
Because it's very different here than it is in downtown Montreal.
And I guess each division of your company would have to look at their particular jurisdiction and decide
we have people that we have employees in Montreal, and the headquarters of the company. Some are in Quebec and some are not, but we still have people there. But it pays to listen to people that know more about what's going on than you do, or I do.
Yeah.
That's what my lesson, I guess, in life that I keep learning over and over is listen to the people that know more about what's going on than what you think you do or I do.
Well, that's a lot of humility, right? Not everyone has that.
Well, I'm just telling you, ask me a question, I'm giving you the answer. Humility. It's a good thing to have.
I mean, we have, there are people in positions of great power who don't have that.
Well, you're right.
This is just a hypothetical question. If you had to choose between living in the United States right now or living in Canada in this pandemic, where would you prefer to be?
I don't have an answer for that because it's the regions that certainly New York City is very different than living in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I guess what I'm getting at is the political leadership, like the climate of the...
Well, I'm very happy to be, I'm very fortunate to be a Canadian.
Mm. Does being in such close proximity to the U.S., is it good or bad for business right now?
From a business point of view, it's been very positive for us to be close to the United States.
Yeah.
And we've been very fortunate because the Americans are very good when it comes to business, generally speaking, and they're very competitive. And certainly the Americans have been very positive for our company, and we're there a lot.
This might be you can say this is a dumb question and don't answer it. What's the best thing about being rich?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Well, I live in the same house that I had. I live next door to a house that I bought for $36,500. The house I'm in, I bought for $115,000 at the time, still in it. And I'm driving a pickup truck, so I owe a lot of money.
You don't. You do?
Oh, absolutely. If you build a business, when you don't have money, you have to borrow the money.
Yeah.
But the trouble with borrowing the money is you got to pay it back. And then if the banks get trust in you or other people, they'll help you, loan you some money for opportunities. The main thing is to be honest and pay your bills back.
So what is it about having built your business that's so successful that keeps you getting up every morning?
Well, I can't wait to get up in the morning because I like going to work. If you like your work, well, I don't know anything more fun than what I do.
And you want to keep building, right? You're never static. Like you're always looking to the next.
I have always believed that it's important to continue to grow your business. And that's what we're doing. Still doing.
Okay, so what's the worst thing about having money? I won't say being rich, but what's the worst thing?
Well, we have a foundation that gives money away, and we have people here that we take requests, and then we have a committee that decides where we give the money, and we support different causes, and so we have a group that decides where we try to help things that people that are disadvantaged, whether it's in Haiti, in some of these poor countries, or whether it's hospitals, or whether it's other things. We supported people in overseas, so we've been very blessed to be able to do that.
But you don't have to do that part. Why is it important for business leaders to be philanthropic, to give back?
Well, I can only speak about us. I can't
Sure.
talk about
Okay.
anybody else. My dad always taught me from the time I grew up. My first allowance was 50 cents. And then my dad said to me, now, I want you to give 5 cents out of the 50 to the collection plate of the church, because that was called tithing in the Old Testament. So I was always taught to tithe, which I still do to this day.
You do. You're very generous. Yeah.
Well, I followed what my mother. I was an only child. We didn't have any money, but I couldn't have had better parents. So.
And you've particularly been generous in the area of healthcare, right? Hospitals.
Well, the reason we do that is because whether you have money or you're poor, everybody needs health care sooner or later.
And I know you said you love coming to work. There are a lot of people who reach a point in life where they think, okay, I'm going to take a little break, maybe even retire. Is retire like a dirty word for you?
No, I just it just doesn't appeal to me at this stage of the game. But nothing wrong with retiring. A lot of people do, and it's the right thing to do. In my case, I've always owed too much money. I had to keep working to make sure I can make my payments.
Just like the rest of us. What do you find is the most awkward thing about this pandemic, about the world we're living in now? I know you like to meet personally with a lot of your staff, right? A lot of individually and personally, and has that been very awkward for you to maneuver in this pandemic?
No. I still go to where I need to go. I'm careful and follow the rules to the best I can.
I've heard you drop in on Save on Foods.
Oh, sure.
Why do you do that? Why do you just drop by?
Well, because I drop by to see how the customers are doing, how the people are getting along, our employees, and talk to the customers, and no, I'm very interested in how we can do things better.
And you're not going to stop that because of a virus.
Well, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm staying home. Like at night, I go home, and where instead of going out for dinner, I go home.
Cooking at home more?
Oh, I'm home a lot. I haven't been home this much I can't remember.
All right, Mr. Pattison, we so appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for coming and visiting us today.